Well, good morning, folks. It is Wednesday, 9 September 2020. We're here at the Fort Worth Aviation Museum, home to the most touchable warbirds in Texas. We've got a change to the program today. I'm here at the museum alone today, a little bit of weather, and we don't have some of our volunteers here. We were also anticipating that we were going to be able to have an interview with Cilla Barron today, who's a former OV-10 Bronco Association board member and also a former member of VMO2, Marine Observation Squadron 2. Unfortunately, she had a last-minute change to her plans, so we're going to do a bit of a grab bag here this morning. So we're going to turn this around. And please, lots of questions because I don't have much planned here, but I thought what we'd do is do a stroll down our walk of fame here in the hallway that we refer to sometimes as the I didn't know that hallway. So what we're going to start out with here, first of all, this morning, is we're going to talk a little bit about MEACHAM Field. And MEACHAM Field was established in 1925. About 1924 or so, Amon Carter and a bunch of local businessmen decided that we needed to emphasize aviation. This was right after the First World War. And it was obvious that aviation had a future, but not certain exactly what it was. Amon Carter had a vision that it would be a future to have airmail service here as well as commercial service. And so he formed, along with several hundred other local businessmen, what was referred to as the Fort Worth Aviation Club. Much like a cattleman's club or an oilman's club, their intention was to promote aviation and try to further the interests of aviation here in North Texas, and in particular in Fort Worth. So what we have here in 1925, actually 4th of July in 1925, the Fort Worth Airport was designated a municipal flying field. It was referred to as MUNI. Until that point in time, we'd had the three airfields that surrounded Fort Worth from the First World War, mostly referred to as Hicks, Barron, and Everman. Hi, George. Glad to see you. Or Carruthers, rather. Carruthers, Everman, and Hicks. The one down off of Everman Parkway today, which was also referred to as Barron Field, was used as a Muni field for a little while. And then after a period of time, the city felt that we needed a new one, and that's where Amon Carter and the Fort Worth Aviation Club came into being, and encouraged the city to the point of purchasing this land that we are presently on in 1925, and referred to it as the Muni. It went through a lot of different development over the years. We can see here some of the early development of the airfield was to build hangars at MEACHAM Field here. And as you can see, some of the airplanes that are here, biplanes, and it looks like some travel airs. And so some of these airplanes were probably used by Texas Air Transport and others for the airmail contracts. You can also see the circular area right here in the middle. And this is a lighting area. So in the 50s, in the 30s, they went ahead and started to build other buildings and things here at MEACHAM. Most notably was the terminal building with the Crystal Tower. That was the control tower here. And it was notable also because this was one of the first buildings in the Southwest U.S. that had air conditioning, especially airplane terminal buildings. Well, along about 1933, American Airways built an administration building and a hangar here. We've talked about this a little bit, and this building still stands here. This is a picture of it from 1933. It looks much that way today, except that it has been totally refurbished by Mr. Robert Bass. He's noted for historic preservation here in the United States, and he certainly did a wonderful job with this building. It's really a landmark piece, not only to the airport and aviation, but also to his efforts. Well, this took place. American Airways, as it says, was formed in 1930. It was a consolidation of about 12 other airlines. some of them Southern Air Transport, Texas Air Transport, and several others that had been operating up and down the area and around the U.S. In terms of providing contract airmail service and commercial service. So here's another view of the terminal building, which I just showed you, along with the American Airlines hangar building. The American Airlines hangar building is the only one that still stands here right now. But you can see Delta DC-3, American Airlines DC-3s, looks like a beach. And one of these roads still exists that comes up to the building, but the terminal building was taken down quite some time ago. We have shown you the actual original plaque of this. It was dedicated to Amon Carter on October 18th, 1933, in recognition of his untiring efforts on behalf of the air transportation system. One other thing I want to mention here, if I can get a thumbs up on this, we've had all kinds of sound problems inside this building. And so today, all of the air conditioners have been turned off. There's nothing going on in this building at all today. So it can let me know if the sound quality is okay. Just give me a thumbs up or tell me whether it's still poor, something we're still fighting and we can't figure out why. Here's some other MEACHAM pictures I'd like to have you take a look at. MEACHAM is notable in that over the years, supposedly there have been as many as 15 world records set here. One of the earliest notable things that took place was in 1927. Hi, George, bunch of thumbs up. Thank you very much. 1927, Lindbergh came here. Thanks, David. Lindbergh made a visit here. In fact, he came in just after his transatlantic flight, and we've got a little video of that. I can't show that to you, but we've got a little video of it. And apparently what took place is the airfield itself was so clogged up with people that he wasn't able to land here. He landed at an alternative field here in the area, and then after that they cleared the field so that he could come back and land here, and he was mobbed by, I think the number was about 50,000 people showed up. Braniff Airways flew out of here, and this is one of the original hangar buildings, along with the rotating beacon here at Fort Worth. You can see in this other picture, it actually said Fort Worth on top of the building. That may or may not be true. It looks like it may have been a Photoshop. This is what the airfield sound is better today than most times. Okay, thanks, David. Everything's shut off and now it's warm in the building, so that'll be the sacrifice we make today. This is the layout of the airport, or at least it was. There were a bunch of crosswind runways. Now we just have the north-south runways. And this is another view of the Crystal Tower. In, I believe it was 1934, 1935, there was something that was called an air cavalcade. They made stops at, I want to say it was 70-something cities. It was a little bit like Lindbergh when he came through. He went to a number of different cities, and I want to say that Fort Worth was like number 55 on the list. But he made a cross-country and stopped at virtually all of the airports. So what you're seeing here is an autogyro. Amon Carter flew in this. They also flew it downtown and landed it near the stockyard, not the stockyards area, but near the one of the stadiums, or the stock show area. But this cavalcade came through on a number of different occasions, kind of promoting aviation in the area. So here again we see the tower, and unfortunately the demise of the tower. It's been iconic, and there's so many great pictures of that as an architectural feature. At some point in time, maybe we'll be able to bring something back that will resemble that. From 1930, here's the Southern Transport Continental Air Route. Some of the first flights, as you can see, this one came through Fort Worth. And let's see, what else do we have here? Let's see, Texas, not even sure what that one says. Texas Air Transport maybe, but there were a lot of different little services. Hi, Joseph, glad to have you with us today. I guess this is part of the in-school process here today. In 1928, Mr. Lott, who was the president of National Air Transport, presented Amon Carter with a Travel Air 5000. It was one of only 8 that National Air Transport used. There were only about 14, I think, total that were built. This one was presented to Amon Carter, and he promptly took it over to his ranch, where it stayed for a long, long time, up until the 60s. It was retrieved in the 60s by a former Continental Airlines captain, and then it was, after that, it was brought back up here. Robert Simpson bought the airplane, and it was restored over in Justin, and is now in the former Star Telegram printing press portion of the building. This gentleman right here in the middle is H.C. Meacham. This is the person that the airfield was named after. He was the mayor. He was a one-term mayor, and in 1927, the airfield was named after him. Amon Carter, I think it was at that point in time, had married Meacham's daughter, so I'm not certain how that all worked out. But here's a picture of the control tower, the Crystal Control Tower. It was the actual aviation control tower, and a few pictures of the terminal building itself. This is inside the terminal building, what it looked like. It was actually very modern for the time. There's the rotating beacon. And that is a Travel Air 5000. It's the Woolard, I believe, was the one that did the Dole Pineapple race. So at any rate, those are just a few pictures of early Meacham photography. So then one of the other notable things that took place here in North Texas was the introduction of, or the visit from, the Mexican Air Force's Squadron 201, the Aztec Eagles. The Aztec Eagles were a squadron that eventually went to the Philippines and flew P-47s in support of the Allies. When they originally, the war started in the Second World War, the Mexican government were neutral until German submarines sank a couple of their oil tankers in the Gulf of Mexico, and they decided to join forces and become allies. And so one of the things that they wanted to do was update their Air Force, and they came to North Texas, or they came to Texas to do that. Central Texas, they came up here and learned a number of different things in way of transitioning to the P-47. Some of their instructors here, they were surprised to find out were going to be women. They were WASPs. Mostly the WASP towed targets for them, but it was very surprising for them for women to be part of their training process. But they said it was okay because they were very pretty. This is what the P-47s looked like. They had U.S. stars and bars, but they also had the Mexican Air Force triangle on the wings. Underneath the wings, you can see, I'll show you another picture here, and also the green, white, and red on the tail. And they fought in and around Luzon in the Philippines in 1945. This particular painting or print that we have here is very special. I'm not certain exactly the year that it was completed, but this is a Strike of the Aztec Eagles by Jack Fellows. It's a beautiful print, and we have, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 of the remaining Aztec Eagles who signed this print. My understanding is that they've all passed at this point in time. So here's some of their pilots in front of their P-47s. The P-47 training that after they left here was done in San Diego. There's just a little bit more, another picture from that era. Mexican Air Force Squadron 201, the Aztec Eagles. And as we've mentioned here before, we've been fortunate in that we have on loan from David O.Z. a T-28 that belonged to Squadron 201 during the 1950s. And it's in the process of being restored, and it will go back into Mexican Air Force colors when that is done. And these exhibits that I'm showing here now rotate periodically. Our collection manager, Ben Guttery, changes them out periodically. This is Bessie Coleman from 1926. Bessie was from here in North Texas. Not exactly sure when she got the interest in flying. Could very well have been when she was a younger girl, in 1912 or so, when the Mossad aviators came through. It could have been during the First World War, which is probably more likely in 1919 or so, when there was a lot of flying that took place here. Bessie was born in 1892 in Atlanta, Texas. And she was as it says, the 10th child of a sharecropper, George and Susan Coleman. Family moved to Waxahachie in 1894, and Bessie got her interest in flying. So she tried to learn to fly here, but unfortunately nobody would train her because she was African American. So she was told that, well, maybe if she went up to Chicago, that they might be more interested in helping her and teaching her how to fly, but unfortunately that didn't take place. So she returned back to Texas, learned to speak French over a period of time, and then went to France because she was told in France they would. Well, on June 15th, 1921, Bessie Coleman became the first black woman to earn a pilot's license. And I want to make that distinction. Oftentimes I hear that she was the first African American. More than being the first African American, she was the first black woman to earn her pilot's license. And this is a copy of that license. On 15 June of 1921, she was officially licensed. Well, when she came back to Texas, or came back to the United States, she immediately became a star. They nicknamed her Queen Bess, and she flew in many of the air shows. There were a number of black air shows that were taking place across the United States at that time, and she flew in a lot of those. As you can see here, she had a Jenny. There were an awful lot of Jennies around after the First World War, and this was one of the ones that was kind of her trademark airplane. Name was Queen Bess. Unfortunately, on April 30th of 1926, Bessie died while she was practicing for an air show in Jacksonville, Florida. She was only 34, and she was inducted into the Texas Aviation Hall of Fame in 2000. And there is a Texas historical marker to her in Waxahachie. In fact, I understand, and I haven't been there, but in the little museum there, they have a lot of things about her. Hi, Mike. Good to see you. So the last little bit of information we're going to show you here in the I Didn't Know That hallway is about Reg Robbins and James Kelly and their duration flight in 1929. At this point in time, in the late 20s, there were lots and lots of duration flights that were taking place. Some of them were very well financed, like the United States Army Air Corps had one that they had, I believe it was called the Mystery Ship, and there had been $100,000 or more put into the effort of having that airplane fly. Well, Reg Robbins and James Kelly, and that's Reg on the left, and it's James Kelly on the right, decided that they were going to attempt to do this too. So, in an old Brougham, they went ahead and they attempted to set the record, and they did just that. Let's see, what's it say here? Cowboy Jim Kelly, pilot, Fort Worth. Well, Jim Kelly was actually the mechanic. But what you can see here is two airplanes, and one of them is the Fort Worth, being flown by Kelly and Reg Robbins. And they're flying over the area here, and in this particular case, they're being refueled. This was some of the earliest opportunities or operations at air-to-air refueling. There was a hose that came out of the first airplane. It was taken down into the second airplane, and then they would literally hand pump the fuel in. They also had to do some other things because their record at the time was 172 hours and 32 minutes, beating by a day a previous record set 5 months earlier, and that was the Air Force's record. So what was taking place here also is they had to have food. They had to get rid of debris and things. So they would actually lower baskets down to the airplane with food and newspapers. They had the opportunity to read in the newspapers what was going on with them. They said afterwards that they could have flown longer, but as it says here in the newspaper, propeller blades splintered, Fort Worth lands safe. The problem here is that there's a little catwalk, and you can't see it in these pictures, but there's a little catwalk on the side of the airplane, right underneath the wing here. And that was an opportunity for James Kelly to go out and check the engine operation, oil the engine if need be. And on one of his first trips out there to do that, the buckle from his belt flew out and nicked the prop. Well, they had no idea at that point in time, but it nicked the prop just enough so that over that period of 172 hours, the blade started to splinter and it started to vibrate, and so they finally felt that they had to go ahead and land, which they did, and they landed safely and set the record with essentially an old borrowed airplane and just a lot of will. They landed before a crowd of 40,000 people, and there were supposedly about 175,000 or more that were in the area. That was probably one of the largest crowds ever to witness or participate in any kind of an aviation event here in Fort Worth. We've had some big crowds, obviously, when Ormer Locklear died, and some of a few of the other activities that took place here. But this was one of the most recent. Again, they said there are approximately 15, and don't ask me to list them off because I'm not able to do that right now, but many world records that have been set here at Fort Worth at MEACHAM Field. Of course, you've got an airport here that's been here since 1925. It's almost 100 years old, and you would expect that. This is one of the oldest airports in the country. We do have a historical marker just outside to reference that. So if there's any questions, please ask. We're kind of towards the end of our normal 20 minutes here. I appreciate you being patient with me today. I know Scylla wanted to be here, and she said we will reschedule. She had something come up here early this morning and just wasn't going to be able to do the interview. So that was going to be a first too, because we were going to do an interview from two places. If we can make that work, then there's a whole lot more things that we can bring to you. So, David, thank you for the comment. Great history lesson. There's a lot of great history here. We are open fully now on Saturdays. Starting this Saturday, we'll be open from 9 until 5. That's outdoor exhibits as well as indoor in the museum exhibits. Again, we're having difficult time having enough volunteers to be open more than that. So if you'd like to come out and help out being a docent or work in the gift shop, even with the airplanes, although we've got a good group of people right now still working on the airplanes. The YF-16 is coming along. The TA-4 is going to be painted soon. And we're getting ready, getting the O-1 Bird Dog. We need to, if somebody's got expertise with taking wings off of an O-1 Bird Dog, let me know, because we need to get an O-1 Bird Dog ready to transport up to Justin for restoration. So unless there's anything else, I'm going to tell you just stay out there, stay safe, hang in with us. Not certain what we're going to do yet on Saturday. Maybe we'll get Scylla back for Saturday. If not, we'll have something else for you planned on Saturday. And thanks for tuning in today. And we'll look forward to seeing you on Saturday. Thanks, folks. Bye.